One of the most profound movements and one of the first real social movement in American history was all about slavery, and that's labor. And it was about creating a different kind of democracy, different kind of way of thinking about the economy. And I think these battles aren't over. The African American portion of American wealth as a whole is 3% today. And the last time it was 3% was in 1868, 3 years after slavery. African Americans going back to before the Civil War, and the earliest African American spokespersons and writers and leaders like Frederick Douglass and others argued that the fundamental feature of the American economy was dehumanization. And they also argued that you can't have a democratic constitution and an economic system that degrades and exploits people. Many of the radical Republicans who fought for the Civil War and in the Civil War believed the same thing. I think the true intent of the 13th Amendment wasn't just to eliminate chattel slavery. It was to eliminate all forms of economic oppression and create what we would now call living wages for everybody. I think that was the true intent. But these things were overthrown. After the Civil War, there was a counter-revolution, Lincoln's assassination, the destruction of Reconstruction. We got segregation, which wasn't just about making white people feel superior. It was about a cheap labor force, which persisted. The 1963 March on Washington, where everyone sees Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. Well, King wasn't head of that march. A. Philip Randolph was, the first black trade union president. The demand of the march was for jobs and freedom. Jobs came even before freedom. That sort of dream of a new kind of economy was tightly connected with thinking about voting rights and a new kind of politics. And when African Americans said we refuse to work as basically semi-slave laborers with no rights and no voting rights and no protections, and my generation said we're not going to do that work that our parents did, then employers started bringing undocumented immigrants into the country to work with no rights and no protections. And when the government said, well, what are we going to do with all these young folks like me who don't want to do this kind of semi-slave work? They didn't reform the economy. They said, let's lock them up. And we got mass incarceration. And so I think all of these things are related to our history. All of these things are part of the challenge of changing the system. And the system connects these things.
This is why you took a second job. Why you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. Why you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
Hey, what do you say, folks? Great to see you today. Here we are the day after Valentine's Day. The Bill Press Show. Happy Valentine's and happy Monday, February 15, of course. Good to see you today. Hope you had a great weekend. We got a little snow here in Washington, D.C., but that is not stopping us from bringing you all the news of the day and, of course, getting your comments. Here we are on Free Speech TV and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. YouTube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. Big story, of course, is the death of Justice Antonin Scalia at the age of 79, a really legendary figure on the Supreme Court. I got to know him pretty well, interviewed him a couple of times. He was a nice man, fun to be around, but his views on the court were just absolutely the worst. On guns and on the right of choice and on gay rights and on all the issues that we care about. Now the big question is, will President Obama be able to name a replacement or get a replacement confirmed to Justice Scalia? He certainly should be able to. This is only February. It's his constitutional duty to nominate a replacement to the Supreme Court. But the Republicans, in typical fashion, opposing everything President Obama wants to do, have warned him, don't even send anybody up because we will refuse to confirm him or her. We will let the next president do so. Well, that's fine to let Hillary or Bernie do appointments to the Supreme Court, but this vacancy should be filled now by President Obama. And hope you caught part of that wild GOP debate Saturday night. Donald Trump stepping over the line and blaming George W. Bush for September 11. It was an ugly debate by a whole cast of ugly candidates, every last one of them. All right, so join in. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, The Bill Press Show, this Monday morning.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Okay.
"21. My father is run over by a car. He's passed out in the road with a blood alcohol content 4 times the legal limit. I do not cry. 4 months later, the nurses lose his pulse, and I wonder whose life flashed before his eyes. Rewinding VHS tapes, old home videos. 20. 19. I haven't brought a friend home in 4 years. 18. My mother sips the word divorce. Her mouth curls at the taste like it burns going down. 17. I start doing homework at Starbucks. I have more meaningful conversations with the barista than with my family. 16. I wait for Christmas Eve. My brother and I usually exchange gifts to one another early. This year, he and my father exchange blows. My mother doesn't go to Mass. 15, I come up with the theory that my father started drinking again because maybe he found out I'm gay. Like, if he could make everything else blurry, maybe somehow I'd look straight. 15. My mother cleans up his vomit in the middle of the night and cooks breakfast in the morning like she hasn't lost her appetite. 15. I blame myself. 15. My brother blames everyone else. 15. My mother blames the dog. 15. Super Bowl Sunday, my father bursts through the door like an avalanche, picking up speed and debris as he falls. Banisters, coffee tables, picture frames, tumbling, stumbling. I find his AA chip on the kitchen counter. 14. My father's been sober for 10, maybe 11 years. I just know we don't even think about it anymore. 13. 12. 11, Mom tells me Daddy's meetings are for AA. She asks if I know what that means. I don't. I nod anyway. 10. My parents never drink wine at family gatherings. All my other aunts and uncles do. I get distracted by the TV and forget to ask why. 9. 8. 7. 6. I want to be Spider-Man. Or my dad. They're kind of the same. 5. 4. 3. I have a nightmare. The recurring one about Ursula from The Little Mermaid. So I get up. I waddle toward Mommy and Daddy's room, blankie in hand. I pause. Daddy's standing in his underwear, silhouetted by a refrigerator light. He raises a bottle to his lips. 2. 1. 0. When my mother was pregnant with me, I wonder if she hoped, as so many mothers do, that her baby boy would grow up to be just like his father.
you wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
And the next nominee for the Supreme Court to replace Justice Antonin Scalia is... Well, we don't know yet, but we're going to find out soon. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? It is a big Monday, day after Valentine's Day. Hello, hello, hello. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from Washington, D.C. on a snowy Monday in Washington, D.C. And coming to you live from, oh my God, our brand new studio. Take a look. Take a look around. I'm telling you. It's
I like it.
It's all different.
I like it. I think
like
it looks great.
I like it.
It's sleek.
Sleek? Is that the word?
Updated.
That's my word.
Modern. It doesn't look like a dungeon anymore.
No.
That blue baffling. I felt like I was in a packing box.
I know. And I feel we have new mics. We're going to get even newer mics because these are just a little too tall.
Yeah.
And we have one new camera. You can figure out where that camera
We have a couple new cameras. We have a couple new cameras.
No.
Yes, indeed.
No.
Yeah, look. Jamie's got one now. So you don't have to look at Jamie through the glass now. You see, it's mounted on the glass there.
Oh.
We've got a Jamie cam.
Oh, a Jamie cam.
We've got a Jamie cam.
We have a Ray
That's
cam.
weird.
Can we?
We don't have a Ray cam
Oh, whoa.
by request.
Okay. And that camera up there is missing. I noticed. No, it is.
What are you doing?
Is there, that one?
No, it's up there. No. There's another camera up there.
Oh, there's.
That's that one's still up there. We got a couple
all right.
new ones in the studio.
Whoa. It's just hard to keep up with.
I know. It's crazy, right?
So many changes.
A whole new look.
And a new desk.
New desk.
Right. And lots of things to discover. I can't even see my computer. It's back here. But anyway. Well, so if we seem a little out of sorts today, it's just we're getting used to new space, and but it's the same old gas.
Let's be clear.
Coming to you here from Washington on a big day. Yes, oh my God, since I've seen you, the big Democratic debate Thursday night, in which Hillary Clinton attacked Bernie Sanders for writing a blurb for my book. How do you like that? I'm here on national television. I'm sitting there on CNN, and Hillary's attacking Bernie. Saturday night, we had the big Republican debate, and that was a bloodbath down in South Carolina. Something about South Carolina that just brings out the worst, certainly in the Republican politicians.
Yeah.
It was worth the price of admission, right? And then Saturday, before the debate afternoon, the word breaking, the death of Justice Scalia out in West Texas and all the questions that raises. So, boy, we got lots and lots to talk about today with our team. Coming in, despite the snow, we all made it here. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hello, Bill.
Good morning.
It had just about stopped when I walked over. So is it?
It just started again, the snow,
Oh, really?
from what I understand. Yeah. I mean, from my phone told me that it started snowing.
And we're
outside.
expected to get
A little more snow today.
3-4 inches?
Could be 3 to 6 inches. We've already
I'd
gotten.
say maybe a couple this morning.
Yeah,
right?
maybe 2 inches.
Yeah.
At best.
Ray Rogers made it in from Virginia, yes, here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding on the job as our videographer with all kinds of new tricks we're going to see today. With our new board in back of us. So
Really and truly, you should see the new look of how we show and shoot the show on TawkrTV or on Free Speech TV. It's a totally different look with the new cameras, and the sight lines are all changed, and it's cool. It looks really good.
on the radio, it still looks the same.
That's right. Yes.
And we are there with
Not
you.
much change there.
And foremost, again, as your local progressive talk on your local progressive talk radio station, as your progressive morning show. Also there on Free Speech TV and, of course, on TawkrTV. But again, just a little glimpse of that debate. it got really ugly. And you know who came forth and held his own, more than held his own, I think, was Jeb Bush Saturday night. And Donald Trump said something nasty about his brother, and Jeb just says, look, I'm getting sick and tired of this.
I'm sick and tired of Barack Obama blaming my brother for all of the problems that he's had. I'm proud of what he did. And he's had the gall to go after
World
my
Trade
mother.
Center came
He's
down
had the
during
gall
your
to go
brother's
after
reign.
my mother.
Remember that.
There you go.
Hold on. Let me finish this.
Ooh, listen to the crowd.
Yeah, man.
They really turned on the Donald on several times. They turned on
That
the
crowd
Donald.
was something else.
That crowd was out of control. Yeah.
That crowd was so out of control and ill-informed that I'm surprised it's not leading the polls for Republican nomination for president.
Right. I don't know where they fell. By the way, an all-white crowd.
Oh, yeah.
From what I could see.
Oh, yeah.
This was a Republican debate, but all-white crowd.
Yeah.
In Greenville, South Carolina.
Greenville.
Yeah. Greenville. Sorry,
Greenville.
Greenville.
You got to pronounce it like a local.
And I don't know whether I've been. Can't remember whether I've been to Greenville. Probably have, but I think there are probably some African Americans that live in Greenville.
Oh, I know there are. I'm positive that there are.
Right. They went out of their way to round up a whole white crowd.
You know what? I think that the African Americans of Greenville stayed as far away from there as they possibly could. I think it's the other way around.
Right.
I think they ran from the Republicans.
Man, I'm telling you. So much to talk about. So we've got reporters coming in from all the great sources, from Salon, from Politico, from the Washington Post, from The Hill, and from the National Journal today to help us through the issues of the day. And yes, let's talk about whom the president might appoint to replace Justice Scalia. Or should he just wait until the next president? But first,
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Congratulations to Joaquin Garcia.
congratulations.
Joaquin Garcia of Spain is 69 years old, and he received an award for 20 years of his service at his job. So his bosses went to go and give him this award, and it was only then that they found out that Joaquin Garcia hadn't come to work in 6 years. He had bailed about 6 years ago and never came back. Now, they kept paying him, and he kept cashing the checks. They just kept going to his house, and he would cash the checks. But he just stopped going to work. No more. And of course, the way that they found out is when they were going to award him this prestigious award for his long years of service. So
You'd think he'd at least show up to get his award.
I know. Yeah, no, sorry.
Smarter than anybody else who worked there.
He's onto something. I don't even know if you notice if I left for 6 years. That wouldn't be a bad gig. How about Kanye? Kanye West had a big weekend. On Saturday night, he performed for Saturday Night Live, and he released his album, The Life of Pablo, on Tidal and at KanyeWest.com. But here's an interesting little plot twist. He took to Twitter and said, quote, "I write this to you, my brothers, while still $53 million in personal debt. Please pray we overcome. This is my true heart." So Kanye is saying that he is $53 million in personal debt.
And some late-breaking news.
Oh.
Overnight,
Kanye
tweeted to Mark Zuckerberg and said, "Mark, help me out. I need your help. Please call me back before the end of the day. I don't care it's your birthday." So he's looking for some money.
You know,
crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, why would Mark Zuckerberg have to help bail him out?
Yeah,
Why would anybody have to help bail him out?
Kanye West
What
is
this,
a
taxes
weird
he
guy.
owns, or-
So he's gone deep on this fashion line of his.
Oh.
And he unveiled his season 3 of his fashion line also this weekend.
Yeah.
So he might be eating some of that.
The album's good, though.
The album is good, according to Jamie. And actor Bill Murray was sitting down at a restaurant in Carmel, California this weekend, just trying to have a meal, and a couple of fans tried to take his photo while he was eating. So Bill Murray did not alert restaurant staff. He didn't kindly ask them to please stop taking his picture. He grabbed their cell phones and flung them off of the roof of the building. He was on a rooftop restaurant, and he took them and he threw them. One of the phones was recovered, not broken. The other phone was recovered. Also, that one was broken. Murray says he was not drinking when it happened, but the restaurant says they're going to ban cell phones from the restaurant. That's their solution here. And the police say that the victims are not pressing charges.
Yeah.
Probably get a lot of money for a cell phone that was broken when it was tossed by an angry Bill Murray.
I would think so.
Might be an investment there.
Come on, just say, you know what, please, just.
Yeah.
I have to do that.
You have to do this all the time. We've seen it. We know how this goes.
Either put down the phone or pay me money.
Yeah, folks.
That's right. Okay. Yes, indeed. He was, like him or not, like his views or not, a giant on the Supreme Court. Antonin Scalia. Nino, his friends called him, dead at the age of 79 Saturday at a luxury resort ranch out in West Texas. And the question now is, I'll talk a little bit about Scalia, but the question really is, what should President Obama name a successor, or should he, as Republicans insist, wait until the next president is there? Because, after all, President Obama has less than a year left in office. You tell me. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. First of all, on Scalia, I interviewed him. Let's talk about Scalia, the person. I interviewed him a couple of times. I had dinner with him at a table of 10, at least on one occasion. Had several conversations with him at various events around town. And one time introduced him at a luncheon speech, and then I was a moderator for that program and got questions from the audience from afterwards. So I saw him up close, and I have to tell you, very smart, very engaging. He could be fun to be around, had a great sense of humor. And that was what a lot of people, he enjoyed that role, really, of being cantankerous, as he told Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes once about he just liked to stir things up.
I love to argue. I've always loved to argue. And I love to point out the weaknesses of the opposing arguments. It may well be that I'm something of a shin kicker. It may well be that I'm something of a contrarian.
And all of that was brought out, by the way, in a wonderful play, which we saw last year here in Washington. I don't think it ran anywhere else but in Washington, D.C., called Scalia, all about how Scalia's debating with one of his young interns about issues that were coming before the court. A wonderful play that really brought out his character. And it was that he also was a great opera fan, which was sort of the foundation for a legendary friendship that he had with the most liberal, the most conservative, and the most liberal member of the court, Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
As annoyed as you might be about his zinging dissent, he is so utterly charming, so amusing, so sometimes outrageous. But you can't help but saying, I'm glad that he's my friend or he's my colleague.
And then there is his record. And on his record on the issues, absolutely the worst possible, in my opinion, direction that the Supreme Court could go following Antonin Scalia. He had this theory called originalism, which is that the Constitution has to be interpreted exactly as our founding fathers intended it, and that the Constitution, as he famously said, is a dead document and should not change to reflect changing times, which, by the way, I have to think is just impossible. I mean, how can you not? I mean, there are issues we're dealing with today the founding fathers could never have anticipated. And the strength of the Constitution, as Justice Stephen Breyer points out, is that we have been able to adapt and adopt with the times with the same basic document. That's its glory. That's its strength. Scalia just read it just the opposite. And, of course, that ended up in his leading the way on decisions against gay rights, against women's right to choose, against any form of gun control or gun safety measures at all. Most people yesterday were saying the biggest decision that he wrote was the one that overturned Washington, D.C.'s gun laws, gun control laws, right? So that's what he's known for. So on the record, absolutely the worst. And now the question of the vacancy, which is the one I raised to you, it was just so outrageous that, I mean, within an hour or so of the word of Scalia's death getting out, Mitch McConnell right away goes out and says, no way, no how should President Obama name someone to the Supreme Court. Let's leave that to the next president. Of course, he hopes the next president will be a Republican. But, I mean, think about it. Scalia, okay, let's go back to Scalia. He was an originalist. He says, let's take the Constitution at its word. The Constitution at its word says the President of the United States names people to the Supreme Court. It doesn't say, well, in the last year of his presidency, he should wait for the next president because that's not really fair. No. If you take Scalia at his word, Obama should do his job, and he will do his job. But, of course, all the Republicans on the stage Saturday night followed Mitch McConnell's lead. Here's Donald Trump.
I think he's going to do it, whether I'm okay with it or not. I think it's up to Mitch McConnell and everybody else to stop it. It's called delay, delay, delay.
Yeah, that's what they want. Delay, delay, delay. No way, no how. By the way, this is first of all, again, there's nothing in the Constitution that says that only in the first 7 years or the first 6 years should the president appoint. And then the other thing, this is only February, right? I mean, it may be his last year, but we're in the beginning.
He's got a year left.
He's got a year left. January 17, 2017 is when the new president will be sworn in.
And they kept calling him a lame duck president. No. That is not the definition of a lame duck president.
He's got a lot of time, but even if it happened in December, right? I mean, according to the Constitution, he should name somebody. So the president, I believe, should do his job, name somebody, and I've got an idea. We'll take a break, and I'll come back and tell you whom he should appoint. And then the Senate should do its job, hold their hearings, and then they confirm or not confirm. They do their job. I mean, this nonsense, Mitch McConnell, he's the same guy who said, of course, that their number one goal was to prevent President Obama from getting a second term. We need that Supreme Court appointment, and it's got to be a good one. I know who it should be. I'll tell you when we come back. 866-55-PRESS.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, at 27 minutes after the hour, should the president appoint, and whom should he appoint, or should he just wait and let the next president do it? Let's say hello to our buddy Joey out in Chicago. Hey, Joey, what do you say?
Good morning, everybody. Of course he should nominate somebody. You know, the Republican Party, they wrap themselves in that Constitution until it doesn't suit them.
Right.
Until it doesn't suit them, Bill. Plus, you know, and if you don't have a Supreme Court justice for a year, it renders the court useless pretty much. So he has to turn around and nominate one. And there is no delay in the Constitution, Bill.
Got it. You know what, Joe? Here's the test, right? If you figure out, what if there were a Republican in the White House? What do you think Mitch McConnell would be saying, right? Oh, it's our constitutional duty to appoint a Supreme Court justice. And that's a good test. Whenever they say something and you put the shoe on the other foot, when they say just the opposite, then they're nothing but a bunch of hypocrites, which is exactly what Mitch McConnell is. I still have to tell you who the best nominee is going to be when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball. Just like that. Say hi! How to hit a receiver. Nice. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
calls me googly eyes.
And you know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you're beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go. Moving right along at 33 minutes after the hour in our brand new studio in Washington, D.C. I should have gotten a whole new wardrobe. If you'd only told me you were going to have a new studio when I walked in.
Surprise!
Surprise, surprise. Yeah. Could have, hit the company up for a whole new wardrobe.
We don't get a wardrobe budget for the new studio?
That's what I mean.
We get a wardrobe budget.
Well, I thought so too.
Man.
But and it's good to see you today on this Monday, Friday. What day is it?
Man,
Monday.
You jumped way ahead. I mean, you just went for it.
Monday, February 5th, talking about the president and this vacancy now in the Supreme Court with the death of Antonin Scalia over the weekend, and Republicans saying, no, Mr. President, this is not your job. No. We have to let the next president decide. Your comments, 866-55-PRESS. Peter?
We are also on Twitter at BP Show, taking your comments there. Jim Irwin weighs in, says, what's with the Republican double standards?
Yeah.
After all, didn't President Reagan choose a SCOTUS judge with less than a year in his presidency? Dexter backs that up, says Anthony Kennedy was nominated by Reagan in an election year. You could reach out and find us on Twitter at BP Show.
Election years should have nothing to do with the Supreme Court. By the way, just a couple of comments before we get to your calls. I mentioned decisions for which Scalia is to be held accountable and notorious for, and the worst decisions, some of them in the recent history of the court. Let's not forget Bush v. Gore, right? I mean, he led the way on that one. And when he was asked about it, I asked him about it in an interview once, and he told me the same thing that he told an audience at one point, and said, "You know what, I make no apologies for that decision." And he said, "Those who don't like it, just get over it. Just get over it. I mean, that's the way it is. Just get over it." That was his sort of attitude about.
That was his attitude about just about every decision. He just did not care.
Yeah, about everything. Another thing, and one of you may make this point, is that this whole question reminds us of the importance of voting, particularly for president and also for Senate. This puts the control of the U.S. Senate, makes that all the more important that Democrats regain control of the Senate this November, because hopefully this vacancy will already have been filled, but if not, there'll be this vacancy and maybe, who knows, another one. You don't know. So
this is proof. You never know.
You never know. I've said many times that the most important reason for voting for president is appointments to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Because those appointments, they last forever, as we know. So don't say it's not important to vote. For this one underscores again the importance of voting for president and for the Senate. Now,
are you going to tell us?
Yes,
I'm dying over here.
Okay, so here's what gets me. Is all these people said, all right, now here are some of the leading candidates. There's a lead like Merrick Garland. Hello?
You don't have the Merrick Garland trading card in the SCOTUS?
Patricia Ann Millett, leading candidate. Or then there's Indian-American Srinivasan, or I guess how you pronounce his name, not sure. And he would be the first Asian, the first Indian-American. Fine, that's fine, too. I never heard of any of those people. I doubt that any of them could get confirmed. I think you should put somebody on there that the senators could not vote against. My nominee, Joe Biden. Vice President Joe Biden. Republicans like him. Democrats like him. How could they vote against a vice president of the United States for the Supreme Court? And you know what? I mean, look, he's very, very valuable as vice president, but we could do without him for 6 months on the Supreme Court.
That's true.
And remember, he is an attorney, of course. You don't have to be an attorney to be on the Supreme Court, front number one. But he is, and he was head of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And he's the one who presided over the hearings for Clarence Thomas and for Robert Bork. He knows the system. He knows the court. He would be fantastic. And they could not say no. I'm telling you. Enough Republicans. You need all the Democrats and about 12 or 30, I forget, maybe a dozen Republicans. Joe Biden could get them.
There you go.
They couldn't vote against him. Heard it here first. My candidate. Randy's calling from out in Sacramento. What do you say, Randy?
First of all, your book is excellent.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Shout out, Randy.
Yeah.
Second of all, I agree with you. We need to do this right away. If Reagan can do it, I don't see why the president can't do it, President Obama. And number three, I'm concerned that we get the right judge in there so we can, the SEIU decision is coming up.
Yes.
Also, so we can find a way to overturn Citizens United. And I understand there's an affirmative action decision coming up. And
affirmative action is coming up, and the immigration. Remember whether or not the president stepped over the line on his immigration executive orders. There's a lot of important stuff, Randy. And if the court is just tied, you know what that is? Deadlock, right?
You got it, and that's what we got to fix this right away. So I totally agree with you. Have a good night, guys.
Absolutely, man. All right, Randy, thank you so much. Yeah, Randy was talking, of course, about buyer's remorse.
There it is.
And to take the opportunity to remind you, you can get your signed copy of my new book, which Hillary talked about in the debate last Thursday night, with a blurb by Bernie Sanders who says, read this book and get your own signed copy. Just go to our website, BillPressShow.com, and tell us how you want it signed. Let's go to Jim in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hello, Jim.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning.
Peter. Good morning to the Snow Warrior, Ray Rogers.
The Snow Warrior.
Man, that's it. President Obama, if you're listening, carpe diem, seize the day. In your words, Bill, this is too delicious. Let's get a Supreme Court nominee in there.
Yeah, don't you think? I mean, let's have a big battle for it too, right? Put somebody up there who is well qualified, and then, this could turn around. Jim, another thing, if the Republicans, let's say the president appoints, I don't know, Loretta Lynch, right? She'd also be great. The first African American woman ever nominated to the Supreme Court. Let the Republicans make a big fight against her. That'll come back to bite them in the ass in the general election, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I'd say, call their bluff, put it to them, and let them show their true colors, if you will. And I think it'll be a battle worth fighting. And the president certainly should not say, "Oh well, a year from now I'll be out of office, so I'll just sit back and wait for the next president."
Yeah. I mean, if that's their logic, why would he step up and do anything? Right? Like, they can't give him any grief for playing golf on the weekends because they don't want him to do his job.
He might as well just stay out there at Sunnylands in California. Yeah.
What the heck? He's a lame duck president in their eyes, right?
Yeah. Follow their logic. There ain't no logic. Ike, down in North Charleston. Hello, Ike. Weigh in here. What do you think?
Yeah, hey, Guy. Well, got a few things for you. The new studio looks great on the radio. Maybe you could get some new sounders. That'd be great. And I find this suspicious. Were you anywhere near West Texas? All of a sudden, Scalia's passed away, and now you've got a brand new studio. I don't know. But
I must say, the idea of a luxury ranch in West Texas is a little hard to believe, but
well, the right wingers are claiming conspiracy, and obviously, Obama had him killed. But anyway, I was going to say, listen, the reason in particular that Cruz and a lot of these senators or these politicians are against this is it'll take them off. Number one, it's going to take them off of their campaign trail, and they'll have to actually act like they're working for a change, which is something they very rarely do.
Right.
Not only that, but on top of that, that would probably, the confirmation will be carried, the whole action would be straight up on TV, and you could even see how much more of a bigger idiots that they are. But lastly, when it comes down to it, just think about this. The other reason they're blocking this is the reason these cases made it to the Supreme Court is because the lower courts ruled in favor of the way the Republicans want it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if that's the case, then that case stands, and they get what they want anyway.
Sure, that's right. No, the lower court decisions would be the ones that prevail, and those courts and those decisions have ruled in the wrong direction. As far as we're concerned, and they should not be allowed to stand. That's why we need the Supreme Court.
By the way, on your comments about Joe Biden on Twitter at BP Show, Jason weighs in and says, a better pick than Joe Biden is if the president were to nominate himself. Republican heads would be exploding everywhere.
That would be another possible choice. He is a constitutional lawyer.
Yeah.
Right? And then Joe Biden would step up and become president. Okay. Either one of those I would go along with.
What about Michelle?
Oh, Michelle Obama. Yeah. You could put Michelle Obama on the Supreme Court. Talk about making Republicans' head explode.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
That might be tougher. Right? Still would be hard for them to oppose her.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. We come up with 3 good nominees here.
There you go.
Joe
Biden,
Biden, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. Hey, this is easy. Helen's up in Ithaca, New York. Hey, Helen.
Good morning.
Yeah,
I heard,
hi.
St. Valentine went down your chimney and brought you a new studio over the weekend.
Yeah, and how about it? Right.
That is so nice. Judge Scalia, may he rest in peace. He's not a guy I would want to hang out with, but I mean, I'm into opera, but I'm not into killing small, pretty birds. But that's what he was doing down in Texas. But anyhow, it is ridiculous for this nomination to be delayed because the new president will not be inaugurated until just about a year from now.
Yeah.
Then they're going to start the nomination process. So we're going to have that empty seat for probably at least 15 months. So we need to nominate someone now, and he has every right to do that. And they will just look stupid. And we already have the heads of. I'm calling Schumer and Gillibrand when their office opens this morning.
Yeah.
And the numbers, for anybody who wants to call their senators, it's 202-225-3621.
There you go. Right. That's a good thing to do. Call the senators and tell them they've got a demand. They should. They should be demanding. All the senators, Republicans and Democrats, by the way, should demand. This is our job, and we want to do our job, Mitch McConnell. You can sit it out if you want. We want to do our job. And the president is going to nominate. No doubt about it. All right. We come back. Elias Isquith standing by from Salon.com. We'll get his take on this. And he also had some very interesting things to say about the latest Democratic debate. Elias Isquith joins us right after this quick break.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap. But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation. Get married. Give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. There will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
He's not running for president, but he will shake hands and kiss babies. It's the Bill Press Show, your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election.
The Senate set on obstruction. That is the headline in Huffington Post today, all about Mitch McConnell's call for the president not to nominate and the Senate not to act to fill the vacancy left by the death of Justice Antonin Scalia. Elias Isquith covering this and all other news stories for Salon.com, joining us again on our newsline this morning as he does every Monday. Hey, Elias, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Bill. How you doing?
All right, good. So where does this this little nascent battle, all of the Republican candidates for president Saturday night joining in, saying Mitch McConnell was right, how do you think it's going to play out?
I think that for once the kind of talk about a constitutional crisis is not especially overheated. I haven't seen CNN, so I don't know whether they're showing like a piece of paper rolled up fighting something else. That might be overheated. But other than that, I think it really is. I've been figuring for a while, certainly since they changed the filibuster rule for judges that, not up to the Supreme Court, it seems sort of inevitable that the question was in the air. Well, is this the new normal now with the Supreme Court as well? That's sort of the Rubicon. And
right.
I think the momentum of politics, the way that the two parties are becoming more polarized and more ideological, just sort of, it just has a logical consistency that takes you to a place where there's going to be something of a showdown. My best guess is that there's probably going to be, certainly it's going to be a big political fight, and if the president ultimately appoints a justice when Congress is, on break or something like that, I wouldn't be shocked.
Well, I think it's also a battle that could backfire against the Republicans, right? We were just talking about that. If the president nominates, Loretta Lynch has been suggested, right?
Right.
Loretta Lynch, or this guy whose last name I probably cannot pronounce, Sri Srinivasan, maybe?
Yeah.
For the first Asian, the first Indian American, or the first African American woman ever to the court, and the president's definitely going to nominate, right? I mean, that's his job. He'll put somebody up. And if the Republicans make a great big deal about opposing that person, I mean, that could bite them in the ass in the general election. So,
yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. Beyond the sort of,
but of course they're stupid enough to do it, right?
Well, I think they're going to do it because as we've seen over and over again, inside sort of the Republican bubble, the logic of what makes sense and what is going to help you get reelected is different than what makes sense for the party on the national level. So I think you're going to see a lot of Republicans that will sort of go to the mat to stop this appointment. What I think is also interesting, beyond the sort of demographic challenges it's probably going to pose for the party, a lot of the Senate seats that are up for grabs this year are in purple or blue states held by Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not beyond the sort of, again, nobody wants to feel like the Republican Party is the party of old, angry white men. People in blue states don't want their Republican senator to be someone who says, I'm willing to break historical norms just to, prevent this president from doing anything. So it's really going to put, I think, the party in kind of a double bind to some degree.
Let me ask you very quickly, just about a minute left. I was interested in your story about you think Bernie may be flirting with danger after the last debate. How so?
Well, reporters don't write their headlines, which
true,
everybody
true.
should. I should make the bio on my Twitter page probably. Anyway, I just what I saw more was sort of hints of how if the media decides to turn against Senator Sanders, that they're going to do it, which is 1-2 step. The first step is you suddenly take what was been sort of lovable crankiness and you make him angry, and then the second step is you suddenly start demanding that he have a multi-detailed, very in-depth plan for everything he proposes. So far, the media hasn't done that, and I don't think he's at all thinking, but I think I'm sensing the narrative shifting. I don't know if you feel it on your end that way.
I haven't seen it yet, but there's no doubt the media that's what they do, right? Or what we do, I guess. We build people up.
Right.
We build people up and then we tear them down, right?
Yep.
And Senator Sanders has to know that at some point, they're going to be certainly, and maybe it's starting now because he's been so successful, right? Particularly in New Hampshire, that they're going to start taking a closer look at some of his proposals. I think he can ride that out, and but it's going to be a tougher ride. Yeah, and I think he's probably ready for it, and expecting that it would come. Hey, I'm sorry we were so short on time today, Elias, but we will catch up with you next week again. Thanks so much.
Thanks as always.
All right, Elias Isquith from Salon. They do a great job at Salon.
Yeah.
Salon.com.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
So you're drowning in student debt, and it looks like there's no way out. Have you considered bankruptcy? Of course not. It's a dirty word, and everything you've heard says students can't file anyway. It didn't start that way. Bankruptcy laws were enacted in the 19th century to give people a fresh start. But not all debt is created equal. Take this, for example. We have you, your buddy Carlos, and your Grandma Lucy. Carlos got laid off. His credit card debt was too much to handle, so he filed for bankruptcy. It will totally screw his credit, but at least he can start fresh, and after 10 years, his credit report should be fine. Grandma Lucy's home lost half its value. Now her mortgage isn't worth paying back. She says F it and decides to file for bankruptcy too. Then there's you. You didn't land that dream job, you're struggling to make ends meet, but the interest just keeps piling up. With a broken heart, you've written off the possibility of buying a home, having kids, and getting married because, hello, who wants to deal with your crazy baggage? But in reality, you want those things, and your education was supposed to get you there. Now you need a fresh start, just what bankruptcy was intended for. You try to file, like Carlos and Grandma Lucy, and that's when you realize it's not as easy for you as it was for them. In the 70s, Congress worried that students were using bankruptcy to abuse loan programs. That wasn't quite true. Still, over the years, Congress gradually stripped student debtors of their options. The Bankruptcy Reform Act of 1978 was even called discriminatory toward students by the chairman of the subcommittee. Student debt was singled out and lumped with criminal debts. Today, if student debtors try filing for bankruptcy anyway, they'll need to prove their debt imposes an undue hardship. But who's to say what qualifies as an undue hardship? Even some judges have said they don't get it. This lack of clarity in the law could work in your favor. A Harvard researcher discovered in 2012 that few students actually try to discharge their loans through bankruptcy. Of the students who filed for bankruptcy to settle other debts, only 0.1% try the same tactic on their school debt. The craziest part? Just under half of them got their debts fully or partially discharged. In other words, you can file for bankruptcy on your student loans. Depending on your situation, it might just be a matter of trying. At least there's that.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Sarah Wheaton from Politico, top of the next hour.
We've been talking about the passing of Justice Antonin Scalia. Republicans having a hard time mourning him on Twitter. First of all, Michelle Bachmann tweeted out, R.I.P. Anthony Scalia, which is not his name. His name is Antonin Scalia. His name is not Anthony or Anferny. Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, he tweeted Justice Scalia's death a profound loss for America and showed a photo of the justice, except it was a photo of Ed Jarrow, the man who played Scalia in a play.
In the play. I saw the play. Yeah. I interviewed him.
He tweeted out a photo of the actor, not of actually Anthony Scalia.
The actor does look like Scalia, but he's not.
That's true.
Scalia.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet. Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aquaforce. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers
come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aquaforce going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama says he will make a nomination to replace Justice Antonin Scalia. And Mitch McConnell says, don't even try. It looks like the battle of the century shaping up, folks. What do you say? We'll be following it. We're right in the middle of it. The Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., and our brand new snazzy studio right here on Capitol Hill. Check it out. Check it out. On this Monday, February 15, a belated happy Valentine's. Hope you had a great weekend. Lots to talk about today, and we will get right to it. Look forward to hearing from you at 866-55-PRESS. Whether you're listening on your local Progressive Talk radio station, or on one of those two great radio apps, iHeartRadio or TuneIn, or whether you're watching on Free Speech TV or a video stream, TawkrTV. It's good to have you with us. A snowy day in Washington, D.C., but I think they haven't shut down the government yet. Have they?
I don't think so. I have to look.
It's only a matter of time, I'll bet you.
I bet they'll shut it down.
Yeah, right. But a couple of inches of snow when we got up this morning, and it's still snowing now. But we've got lots and lots to talk about here with all of you and with our team here, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hello, Bill.
Good morning.
Oh, the government's going to be shut down anyway. It's President's Day.
Oh, that's right. It's President's Day. Duh. Right, of course. Ray Rogers is here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS and Cyprian Bolding. Partly a lot of work here that Cyprian did in our new studio with new cameras and new angles, and yeah.
Looks good in here. I'm thrilled that it's functioning.
Saturday night, a bloodbath in South Carolina. For those of you who caught it, Republicans just tearing each other apart. Several exchanges. Donald Trump and Jeb Bush, that was pretty ugly, and then Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. Ted Cruz reminding people that Marco Rubio was once one of the gang of 8 who actually proposed what they call amnesty.
Marco went on Univision in Spanish and said he would not rescind President Obama's illegal executive amnesty on his first day in office. I have promised to rescind every single illegal executive action, including that one.
Well, first of all, I don't know how he knows what I said on Univision because he doesn't speak Spanish. And second of all, the other point that I would make...
Marco, si quiere, díselo ahora mismo, díselo ahora. En español, si quieres.
You know what? I must say, I think that Ted Cruz should not try to speak Spanish.
No!
Pretty clearly.
No.
That is really, really bad.
It's not good Spanish.
No. You know, not many Canadians speak Spanish anyhow, so he shouldn't even try. Right. Hey, we got a lot going on. Sarah Wheaton's going to join us from Politico, covers the White House for Politico here at the top of the hour. And then we'll have reporters in from The Hill, from Washington Post, and from the National Journal. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. A huge weekend at the box office for an unlikely hero, Deadpool. Deadpool is going to break in $150 million this weekend at the U.S. box office alone. That makes it the highest opening for an R-rated movie of all time.
Wow.
It's a total game changer. It's an R-rated movie, which is different for comic books, right? They try and make it for kids, but Deadpool in the comics is known for being a little more filthy, a lot more violent, and so they stuck to that, and it paid off in a big way. The production budget was only $58 million, so when you look at how worldwide it's already taken in, this is worldwide now, $260 million. So a huge opening weekend for Deadpool.
I'm going to guess there were plenty of under 17 teenagers and children that snuck into that movie this weekend.
I saw it. I did not.
You didn't bring the kids?
I did not take my children. It is not only is it rated R, it is profoundly R-rated. It is very R-rated.
A hard R.
It is a hard R. But I went, and the movie theater was sold out. But I didn't see any real kids in there. I saw a couple teenagers. But yeah, but it's just slaying the competition, man. A new technique from the University of California at Riverside. There's a team that took a look at how our GPS works on our phones, right? You know, we've got GPS, and it's good. It's very accurate, but it's not as accurate as it could be. It basically gets you down to like a city block, right? But they have new technology. I'm just going to read exactly how it works, even though I don't know what it means. They've developed a technique that augments the regular GPS data with the onboard inertial measurements from a sensor on your phone that gets your GPS data to within 1 inch of where you are. So if you've lost your phone, right? If you lose your phone on a city block, that's really hard to find. But if you lose it within an inch, you can find your phone. What a time to be alive, man. I'm telling you. And the NBA's All-Star Weekend happened this weekend. Lots of big things there. It starts off with the couple games on Friday night, but then Saturday All-Star Weekend is when they have the skills competition, which was won by Karl Anthony Towns from the Minnesota Timberwolves. The three-point competition, which was won by Klay Thompson in a shootout with his teammate, Steph Curry. And then the dunk competition was a legendary dunk competition won by Zach LaVine of the Minnesota Timberwolves. He won over Aaron Gordon. Now,
Gordon was robbed.
Gordon was robbed. But it was a great dunk contest. Last night was the actual All-Star game. Not a lot of defense played in this game, Bill. The West won. The final score 196 to 173.
Oh my God. Did they play 2 games last night?
Yeah, right. I mean, the 76ers haven't scored 196 points all season long.
No.
So it was not a defensive struggle. We'll put it that way.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. President Obama breaking away from his sort of kickback weekend at Sunnylands out in California to comment on the passing of Justice Antonin Scalia and recognizing him as a legal giant for sure, even if you disagreed with his opinions, which I certainly did, and so did the president. But the president also saying he has a job to do, and he is going to do it. Right, Jamie, if we have that bite, President Obama?
I plan to fulfill my constitutional responsibilities to nominate a successor in due time. There will be plenty of time for me to do so and for the Senate to fulfill its responsibility to give that person a fair hearing and a timely vote.
He says that in face of the threat of Mitch McConnell that he should not nominate because the Senate will not even consider that nomination. Here we go. Big battle. Sarah Wheaton covering the White House for Politico, joining us on our newsline this morning. So, Sarah, I have a feeling President Obama is looking forward to this fight.
Yeah, the White House is really eager to keep the president the center of the conversation, and Scalia has caused the president a lot of problems for his agenda, but this was kind of his parting gift to the president, is making sure that he could keep being out there pounding the Republicans for being obstructionists.
And, by the way, the White House, I mean, they must always have a short list, right? Because you never know when somebody could get hit by a truck or drop dead of a heart attack.
Right, and to be honest, I think a lot of people have seen that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has looked frail, and
Right.
so there was sort of a thought that she might be the next justice who would need to be replaced. This does change the calculation a little bit because replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg with another person on the left wouldn't really change the balance of the court. But what makes Scalia's case so have such high stakes for everybody is that it would change the balance of the court if a Democratic president replaced him.
Yes, unlike the nominations of Justice Sonia Sotomayor or Elena Kagan.
Exactly.
Right.
So yeah, the White House does have people lined up. What I've heard is that they probably don't necessarily have somebody 100% ready to go, but they've kind of done the initial vetting, and whoever they choose would still need to go through the White House counsel's office and the DOJ before the Department of Justice before a final decision.
I don't want to make anybody's head explode here, but what would happen if Ruth Bader Ginsburg decided to step down, right? There's already this fight about what's going to happen with Antonin Scalia's seat. What if she decided that she was going to step down, right? I mean, is the White House really ready for that?
That's a very Sorkin-ish West Wing type of
Right?
scenario. But people have already joked that you couldn't get too much more West Wing than we already do have now as far as drama.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be interesting because, again, that would make it almost sort of less fraught because many of the cases that are on the docket now would maybe still play out. Instead of 5-4, they would be 3-4. So could make it easier, at least in the near term, to predict how cases will work out.
All right, so the president comes back today, correct, from Sunnylands?
He comes back late tomorrow because he's just now
that's right.
starting
He has this, yeah.
the big ASEAN summit of Southeast Asian leaders.
Yeah, they're held at Sunnyland. So he'll come back late tomorrow. So he'll be back. Pardon me. I guess what I'm getting to is how soon do you think we will see? I believe that they probably want to get somebody out there as fast as they can. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, they have come out and said that it definitely won't be this week. But they made sure to note that was in large part because the Senate is currently not in session. Definitely a clear little dig at the Senate there.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do probably have somebody mostly ready to go, and they want to make the argument that the Senate has plenty of time to consider this nomination and vote on it. So I think certainly within the next few weeks, in the past, I think it's only taken them about 30 days to name somebody.
Right. Now, their speculation is rampant with names, right? But I want to get your take, Sarah, on my candidate, right?
Okay.
My candidate is that the president should nominate somebody that the Senate could not possibly deny, right? I mean, it would be very embarrassing them to do so. So my candidate is Vice President Joe Biden.
Well, we'll see.
Think about it.
We've seen the Senate give other. You think about how hard it was for Hagel to get through. He was ultimate, so that was a Republican senator that Obama nominated for to be defense secretary, and he had some pretty brutal hearings. Obviously, he was ultimately named. But that would certainly be a very interesting choice. But I suspect that the people the president does nominate will be even less kind of overtly ideological than Biden is.
Yeah, it's just Biden has such great ties with members of the Senate, Republicans and Democrats, right? And he was chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He oversaw a couple of hearings. I don't think he voted for Clarence Thomas, but certainly Clarence Thomas is on the court, and Joe Biden was chair of Judiciary Committee. I'd have to double check that. So I think it would be very tough for them to turn down a vice president of the United States, and particularly somebody who's, as I said, who's got such close ties with so many of the senators there. But at any rate, I'm just trying to stir up trouble this morning.
No,
Sarah.
that would be a fascinating scenario from just as far as a journalist, Bill, from your lips to God's ears. I would love to cover this.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, you can start stirring it up too. We can. So other than that, what's on the president's agenda when he comes back?
We're expecting it to be a fairly quiet week. I know that that he is meeting with the NBA team. That I have to admit I'm such a bad sports fan that I'll have to leave you guys to fill in kind of the significance of the meeting with the basketball team. But he'll be coming back late Tuesday night on a red eye. So I think that we can expect a relatively quiet week. Obviously, I'm sure that we'll start seeing some rumors about, people being snuck into the White House to have meetings with the president.
Right. But in terms of agenda, right, in terms of, criminal justice reform is still on the plate. Obviously, the budget, which he revealed just before he left for California. Other than that, I don't see any big new initiatives on the horizon. Do you?
Yeah, the criminal justice reform is certainly a big question. Many advocates think that if it doesn't get done by February or March, that it's pretty much toast. The White House has signaled that they're not going to support the mens rea reform bill that just came out of House Judiciary, and that is this idea that there has to be criminal intent or a criminal mind behind any action, and it's seen by a way for people on the right to help corporate CEOs avoid getting prosecuted for regulatory violations.
Right.
People on the
that was the Koch brothers amendment to the criminal justice reform.
Right. Although in the sense of the Koch brothers, Mark Holden, their chief counsel, who has been pushing people on the Hill to pass criminal justice reform, he's made very clear that they want to see the other things like sentencing reform, juvenile justice reform. They want to see those go through, even if they don't get mens rea reform. But it is something that they supported and that they would like to see. But there are other people on the right who are pushing a little harder than the Kochs for this one.
All right. Well, we have a snow day and President's Day both combined, Sarah. So enjoy the double holiday, and we'll see you back at the White House later in the week. All right.
Later.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for joining us today. Sarah Wheaton does a great job covering the White House for Politico, Politico.com.
Get social.
This is the story of my grandfather. When I was 19 years old, his right hand was crushed in a printing press. He was supposed to lose the hand, but a young doctor saved it just in time for the war. This is the story of the war. My grandfather repaired tanks. Behind the front lines, away from the cameras, he would pull pieces of dead men from the machines and send the machines back out to the field. This is the story of the war a decade later. Back then, you didn't talk about depression. There was no such thing as PTSD. When my uncle, age 7, asked him who won the war, my grandfather said, nobody. This is the story of my grandfather, the machinist. I have a newspaper from 1981, a story about the Nobel Prize for Physics, a photograph of the winner, a Harvard man standing by his machines. This man is not my grandfather. Beneath the photo, my grandfather has written, I designed and built almost everything in this picture. They worked together for 10 years, but my grandmother says the physicist never even remembered his name. If you asked that Harvard man, there would be no story of my grandfather, just a pair of disembodied hands. This is the problem with stories. They have to leave something out. The editor cuts a line and someone's face fades. The editor says 200 words or less and suddenly a whole family goes missing. The spotlight isn't about the light. It's how it makes everything around it dark. My grandfather's face is erased from every story. The machines survive, but the man who made them doesn't. The machines make the photo, but their maker is out of frame. But we choose where to point the camera. We can choose how to tell the story. We can choose which clothing the hero wears. I could tell you this is a story about a soldier, or I could tell you this is a story about the blue-collar man, but really, this is just the story of my grandfather. I did not know him. I was born too late, but my family tells me his name. Alfred Franzosa. I know that name might only live in this moment, that there are other stories with greater stakes, but still, I will tell you his name. I will repair this old machine. I will let my grandfather live again because I could not know him while he was living. Once, when he was younger than I am now, his right hand was crushed by a printing press, crushed by other people's stories. When it healed, he began to build. He used his hands to build tanks and his hands to build cradles. His hands were the last thing to touch dead soldiers and the first to touch his newborn sons. He built a good family, and that family built me, and now I use my hands to build his story. The story is not a eulogy. A eulogy seals the casket. A eulogy lets no air out. This story is a resurrection. Jesus was not resurrected by God. He was brought back by the people who told his stories. It does not take a miracle to raise the dead, to leave behind the tombstone and take the name with you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go, 26 minutes after the hour. Jonathan Swan from The Hill joins us in the next half hour. Haven't seen you since Thursday. It was Thursday evening for the big Democratic debate on PBS. A little shocker for me. I'm on the set with Anderson Cooper and Hillary Clinton taking after Bernie, saying he is no friend of Barack Obama's because he's been critical of Barack Obama. When suddenly I hear her mention something pretty close to my heart.
He's called him a disappointment. He wrote a foreword for a book that basically argued voters should have buyer's remorse when it comes to President Obama's leadership and legacy. And I just couldn't disagree more with those kinds of comments.
Well, I'm torn. I don't know whether to send Hillary flowers for all the free publicity about my book, Buyer's Remorse, or whether I should be pissed off because she misrepresents it and misrepresents what Bernie did. First of all, he did not write the foreword for the book, right? There is no foreword in the book. He provided a blurb for the back of the book. By the way, so did Keith Ellison, Congressman. So did Robert Reich, Bill Clinton's labor secretary. And all Bernie says is, I'll read it quickly. And he makes the same argument he makes in every speech. Bill Press makes a case why, long after taking the oath of office, the next president of the United States must keep rallying the people who elected him or her on behalf of progressive causes. That's the only way real change will happen. Nothing about President Obama. Not critical of him at all. Bernie is. The book is. The book tells the good things he's done, but also some of the ways he's disappointed us. So if you don't like the book, blame me. Don't blame Bernie. And Hillary, get your freaking facts straight before you attack Bernie over my book.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, at 33 minutes after the hour, it is the Bill Press Show on this Monday, February 15. Welcome to the program. Welcome to our brand new studio. Take a look. Even those of you who listen to us on the radio, on your local progressive talk radio station, just take a minute out to check out Free Speech TV or look at our video stream on TawkrTV. And, I mean, we were working all weekend, tearing the old place down and building this whole new studio. We. Yeah, well.
I miss you here.
I
have to say that's
a collective we.
The collective we.
Yes.
The royal we. The best part of the weekend was Friday, right after the show. We got to just destroy this place. We got to rip everything off the walls. We got to destroy the old desk.
We cracked a few beers.
We had a few brews while we were in here. But it was fun, man.
Just like any good construction crew,
That's right.
And
That's
by
right.
the way, the history books will note that Jonathan Swan from The Hill is our first in-studio guest in the brand new studio. Are you nervous? Does this make you a lot of responsibility?
It's a profound honor, Bill.
Don't screw it up, man.
Yeah. I woke up really early this morning in a sort of nervous fit almost.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Getting ready.
But that's how I feel always when I'm in your presence, Bill. You know? Yeah.
You're getting
the
ready?
studio just exacerbates it.
Well, we had about 1,000 people to choose from, and just want you to know it was not an accident that you got the honor.
And 900 turned you down, or was
We got there.
It's snowing here. It's hard to find people anyhow. But it does look good. We're pleased with it, and so it's a big step forward. Still have a little work to do. These microphones are too high, Jonathan. We're gonna.
We're getting there.
We're getting new microphones. So we're working on it. But anyhow, welcome. And you spent your Saturday night watching another Republican debate.
I sure did.
Life doesn't get any better.
No,
than this,
it doesn't.
Yeah,
Phil.
but this one got pretty ugly at several points, including this little exchange. Jeb Bush showed a lot of fire, particularly Donald Trump went after his family. Oh man.
I'm sick and tired of Barack Obama blaming my brother for all of the problems that he's had. I'm proud of what he did. And he's had the gall to go after
the World
my
Trade
mother.
Center came
He's
down
had
during
the gall
your
to go
brother's
after
reign.
my
Remember
mother.
that.
Hold on. Let me finish this.
Whoa.
And the crowd turns.
The crowd turns on Donald Trump, but who cares? Donald Trump doesn't care, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is just really, I think, quite poll-driven. I mean, the Bush family remains very, very popular in South Carolina, and you'll notice the first time that George W. Bush really steps out on the trail is this week in South Carolina. His approval ratings are still very high there. It's Bush country, as one of Bush's top donors told me recently. So there's been a long-term strategy to kind of really bring the family into the forefront for this primary. And he did that. He used that, I think, quite successfully on Saturday night.
Yeah, his mother also came out in New Hampshire. Big Brother comes out today in South Carolina. He talked about his father, the greatest, I've heard him use that line before, the greatest living human being, right?
And he packaged it all together in a sort of giant family kind of soliloquy.
But I think this is the best we've seen Jeb Bush, right? Would you agree?
It's the toughest we've seen him. I never know how these debates play. I mean, it's interesting. We saw with Chris Christie, everyone said, best debate ever. You know, he monstered Marco Rubio in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I actually think Rupert Murdoch summed up best when he said that he was the suicide bomber. Because often when you go negative really hard, we all in the media think it's terrific, but the voters don't. They get a bit turned off. And I saw a CBS poll. I mean, you can't trust a lot of these polls after the debates, but Jeb was right down the bottom, which I found quite interesting, and Trump was near the top. And you know, I don't know what to make of that, but it'll be interesting to see if the voters thought that he had. It was certainly his most forceful performance.
I did not think Trump had a good night. First of all, I don't think substantively, he doesn't say anything ever, right? But he just got into fights with, like, everybody, it seems, right?
Yeah. I think Trump did a few things there which...
Including the audience, by the way. Right?
Oh, he's done that before.
Yes.
This is now his thing. When he gets booed...
Crowd work.
Right. It's quite amazing. He gets booed and then he just says, you're all donors and special interests. I mean, he just takes on the audience. It's quite incredible.
Bunch of lobbyists and stuff.
Yeah.
The other hostility broke out between... the two Latinos, right?
Yes, there was a Spanish moment.
The Spanish moment. Jamie, let's enjoy the Spanish moment here, where Ted Cruz accusing Marco Rubio of saying something on Univision.
Marco went on Univision in Spanish and said he would not rescind President Obama's illegal executive amnesty on his first day in office. I have promised to rescind every single illegal executive action, including that one.
Well, first of all, I don't know how he knows what I said on Univision because he doesn't speak Spanish. And second of all, the other point that I would make...
Marco, si quiere, díselo ahora mismo, díselo ahora. En español, si quieres.
Oh, man. That was crazy.
For that Canadian to try to speak Spanish... It was pretty bad. He should not even try.
That moment was full-blown insanity. And there were a couple of them in the debate where, there was zero control. None.
Yeah. Which makes it so much fun.
Oh,
right?
yeah. That's great.
Right. So who won that exchange?
Oh, I don't know who wins these exchanges with Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio because they're playing to such different audiences. I mean, Ted Cruz is almost on a different channel. He's just talking to this very, very conservative evangelical audience in South Carolina, whereas Marco's trying to be the unity candidate. And it's very hard to know. I mean, the polls suggest that Cruz is now cutting through more than Rubio is in South Carolina. So we'll see. I think that was a pretty funny exchange. I'm not sure anyone really knocked the other one out.
So did anybody look? I thought Ben Carson was just. I mean, he might as well not have been on stage, right? It's a joke.
Yeah.
John Kasich had some good moments. I mean, did anybody? I mean, anybody help themselves Saturday night?
I think Kasich.
Maybe Kasich. Huh?
Maybe Kasich because he certainly separated himself.
Yes.
He was the only one who took a different approach. Everyone else basically got in the mud and really went at it. And Kasich sort of played the high-minded,
right.
I'm above this and I'm optimistic, and he kept pushing out this positive message. So to the extent that will be rewarded in a Republican primary, and I think that's a pretty open question, at least he distinguished himself. Yeah.
I think he really has carved out an interesting little niche for himself. I'm not sure how well it plays, but he's establishment without really being in the establishment. He's level-headed, in a lot of ways.
I just don't know what's his path. The guy's got no money.
Right.
He is so out of touch with the Republican base. I mean, he's not nearly angry enough, and he doesn't want to build a wall. So there are two big strikes against him. And, he's talking about, it's basically compassionate conservatism rebooted, and I just don't know that works in this cycle.
And let's not forget that the evening started off with a remembrance of a moment of silence.
To your great friend. Your
in memory of Justice Scalia. And then they all got into, all right, how dare President Obama even consider exercising his constitutional responsibility to fill a vacancy
Haven't you
on
heard
the
of the
Supreme Court?
80-year rule, Bill? It's a rule now. This is now a rule.
It's
you
precedent.
can't do it.
Ted Cruz said it was. We have 80 years of precedent that this doesn't happen.
John Dickerson then corrected him on Anthony Kennedy's nomination and was booed.
And then apologized.
He was booed.
And then John Dickerson apologized. What are you apologizing for?
Right.
Yeah.
And inserting facts into the debate?
In fact, in an election year, Ronald Reagan nominated Anthony Kennedy, who was confirmed, and Mitch McConnell voted for him.
I didn't know that last part.
Yeah,
That's
right.
funny.
Mitch McConnell, right. Yeah. So, I mean, this is such hypocrisy. Don't you think that whomever Obama nominates, don't you think this could end up, and if the Republicans just block it, right? Don't you think this could backfire on them?
I don't know. I think it's
in the general election.
How do you mean backfire? How do you mean?
Well, let's say it's pick a name, Loretta Lynch, the first African American. She would be the first African American woman ever nominated to the Supreme Court.
Right.
And the Republicans are going to make a great big battle against her, or even if it's this Srinivasan, whatever his name is, right? Who was confirmed, I think, like Scalia was confirmed 98 to nothing.
Yeah.
He was confirmed for the Court of Appeals 97 to nothing.
Yeah.
First Asian nominated to the Supreme Court, right? If were. And the Republicans then do an all-out war against him, everybody would recognize it's pure political because they voted for him before. So this is a purely presidential politics.
It might be a good base motivator for Democrats.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Particularly if it's an African American or
just in general, I think there are a lot of people, independents who might see that this is so that I think they ought to.
It's pretty boutique, though, isn't it?
I wonder sometimes whether they really think these positions through. I think the answer is no before they just rush in, right?
I was surprised McConnell came out.
He went quick. He pulled that trigger real quick.
He's usually a bit more. I don't know. That seemed a bit kind of rash for him to side with the Cruz wing so quickly.
Let me tell you, he was out there before Ted Cruz, before Donald Trump.
Right.
He was the first one.
Right.
Well, by the time of the debate, he had already come out and said, "No, don't even
I
waste your time."
That surprised me actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, there was also a Democratic debate, remember, Thursday evening. We'll talk about that with Jonathan Swan from The Hill. And you can weigh in at any time. Join us at 866-55-PRESS. A new studio, but the same old phones and the same number, 866-55-PRESS.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
Press Show.
At 12 minutes before the top of the hour, reporters in from National Journal and Washington Post. In the next hour, right now, from The Hill, thehill.com, Jonathan Swan covers all things political and otherwise. It's sort of the journey or the utility infielder, right, for The Hill, are you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit unkind. I would have thought star quarterback, maybe.
Okay.
Whatever, each to their own.
The punter?
Yeah.
All right,
I mean, don't
we'll figure
denigrate me, Bill. Have me on your show.
I didn't intend
throw mud
to.
at
That
me.
was not my purpose at all.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to talk about the Democratic debate, but I want to jump over that. If we have time, we'll get to it later. You just came back from a Koch brothers retreat out in Palm Springs. It used to be reporters were not even allowed anywhere near these retreats, right?
True.
So, who was there and what kind of evil things did they do?
So,
Were you there for the sacrificial goat slaughter, which they do at the marking of all?
I was actually a human pinata. So there were 6 reporters that they had there. Myself, there was NBC and a guy from Bloomberg who's an excellent reporter. So there's some good national reporters there. And they did this last year for the first time. And the reporters that went last year had the same ground rules that we did, which was the only real ground rule was you can't name any donors who you saw unless they agreed to that. So, I mean, that's, you make a compromise by doing that. But it was pretty fascinating. It was a resort in Palm Springs in the desert. 500 of the richest, sort of most powerful donors in the...
500? They have that... Whoa.
Bill, they've got 700 in their network.
Whoa.
And as I'm sure you know, they have a 2016 budget of $900 million.
Yeah.
I mean, this is big time. And, Charles was there, Charles Koch, David Koch. So it was pretty fascinating. I mean, there were a lot of sessions that we weren't allowed into. But, I have my sources in the rooms who are telling me what was going on. So got a fair idea of what was said.
And were people making pledges of...
So they have a big pledge day on the last day, and that is one thing I still don't have a full picture of. Apparently it was quite big, but really not as big because of the markets and things like that. So it was actually a bit damper than in previous
And
pledges.
this almost $900 million that they have bragged that they're going to spend this year, is this for candidates?
No, so I should clarify that. So it's $900 million over 2015 and 16, and they've already spent $400 million. So a lot of it's on their, basically right-wing groups. Americans for Prosperity is obviously the big ones, the grassroots army. They will probably spend somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 million on, let's say, electoral politics this year, which is not insubstantial.
Right.
Yeah.
Which may not be direct gifts to candidates, but are for
super
the
PAC spending,
PACs, which run the ads.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. So they'll run a lot of attack ads against whoever the Democratic nominee is. They'll run lots of Senate attack ads on key seats. But I should clarify one thing, and I reported this after the retreat, which is Donald Trump. This is a group that just can't abide him.
Really?
Truly, deeply, profoundly can't abide him. And just wait and see what happens there. Yeah.
That if he were the nominee, they would be...
They will do whatever they can to stop him being the nominee. I truly mean that. Yeah. I don't want to say too much because I'm going to do some reporting on this. But it's going to be... If he looks like he's going to be the nominee, they will drop a nuclear bomb on him in the way of attack ads.
All right. Now, there's all this talk about South Carolina. But building off the Democratic debate last week, the next test is not South Carolina for Democrats. It's this Saturday in Nevada.
Yeah.
And the Hillary campaign is now saying, since Bernie Sanders is now tied in the polls with her in South Carolina,
In Nevada.
In Nevada, I'm sorry. The Clinton campaign is now saying, well, this is just another all-white state. It's 80% white. It may not be all white, but it's still 80% white. So, of course, we recognize that Bernie may win it. I mean, is this a winning strategy? How long are they going to be able to use excuses for why Bernie's doing so well?
Do you know, Bill, I was in Nevada in December. I spent time with Hillary's campaign. I spent time with Bernie's campaign. And her campaign made a point of saying to me, this is, the first state that looks like America. It's Hispanics, it's this and it's that, And now it turns out it's just another lily white New England, environment.
Yeah.
And, Bernie has, I sat down with his communications director, a wonderful woman, Amelia Pablo. She's amazing. She's, I think, from my understanding, one of the first Hispanic communication directors there. And they are plucky. I mean, they only got into that state in late October, early November. They didn't have anything. They have they have expanded at the most extraordinary rate with college volunteers, with, I mean, this is a plucky operation, whereas Hillary's been there since April, May. It's pretty amazing.
And so if Bernie comes so close in Iowa and then just crushes her in New Hampshire and were to win this Saturday, that gives him a lot of momentum going into South. I mean, I saw this morning she's still ahead 19 points in South Carolina. He, in my judgment, he doesn't have to win South Carolina. He just has to do well in South Carolina, right?
He has to prove that he can take African American votes away from her.
Right.
If he closes that gap, I think he's in really good shape. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, this is amazing.
Isn't it?
From what I saw, also, Harry Reid's not too happy that Hillary Clinton is now dissing Nevada.
Right.
Sometimes it's okay. Hey, Jonathan, what great fun. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me, Bill.
Thanks for helping us launch our new studio.
Yeah.
All right. And you can read Jonathan and follow him in The Hill, of course, thehill.com.
Star quarterback.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
I have never felt so at ease as the day you called me precocious. I have never feared big words, only those that refuse to use them, and the syllables rolled off your tongue like honey. I was hooked. Language became our vein of communication, and I know that everybody uses language to communicate, but ours was different. As if in between the letters and the syllables there is a secret message only we could decipher. My days were filled with the sound of your voice, and your nights were littered with the loops of my handwriting. We exchanged our favorite words, mine being illuminated and yours being cattywampus. And our least favorites, mine moist and yours almost. And when I asked you why, you said it was because almost held failed potential, that it represented our ability to be just not good enough, that we had come to the brink of something beautiful but fell short so many times we crafted a word for it. But even we, with our supposed mastery of the English language, were not immune to the shortcomings of our vocabularies. Words can only help you if you speak them. I never told you that I loved you. You never told me that you were dying. 5 easy words that would have shattered our worlds. I love you, I think. I have a brain tumor. You know, still to this day, I don't know all the details because medical jargon has never fit right in my mouth. And even now, 5 years later, it feels like an invasion of your privacy. But I do know I have pored over our conversation, searching for the secret message you certainly tried to send me, and I am sorry. But I only almost found it. Salt water is not good for paper, and my tears warped your words. After some serious consideration, I've decided to change my least favorite word because while moist is gross, malignant is malicious. Malignant is uncontrollable, means a phone call and the phrase, he didn't wake up. Malignant is messy and unfair and a thief. Malignant means I never got to say goodbye. Malignant is the cause of almost. Because you were on the brink of something beautiful, but you couldn't quite reach it. And you fell too far. I am so sorry I wasn't there to catch you. I hope your heaven is a library, and I hope it is void of almosts. Te amo, Daniel. Sleep well.
Y'all like that poem? Say hell yeah.
This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama is still out in Rancho Mirage, California at the Sunnylands retreat, where he will be welcoming the leaders of the ASEAN Summit this afternoon. And they have a meeting and then a photo op and then a working dinner. That's all in the afternoon. Deputy Press Secretary Eric Schultz will be meeting with reporters at 12:30 California time. I notice it doesn't say what's on the president's schedule in the morning today out in Sunnylands, but it's been all golf all weekend, and I wouldn't be surprised if he squeezed in 18 holes this morning before the big summit meeting. Ben Terrace from the Washington Post joins us at the top of the next hour.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all. and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this. Because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money and judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It's the president's responsibility under the Constitution to nominate a person to fill a vacancy on the Supreme Court. But Mitch McConnell says, don't you dare. Here it is, another big battle. This is going to be a good one. Hello, everybody. Monday, February 15. Great to see you. Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show this Monday, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. An hour where it's snowing, by the way, or has been. I guess it's stopped by now, hasn't it?
No, it's still snowing.
No, is
Yeah,
it really?
You got it.
Are we going to be able to get out of the studio, or are we going to be snowed in?
You know, I have to get out of here.
Yeah.
No offense.
President's Day sleepover.
No offense.
It might be.
But
yeah.
I'm getting out of here. I don't care if it's the last thing I did.
Well, I'm supposed to be on CNN at 11 o'clock this morning, East Coast time. So
maybe they'll send a snowcat or something to come and get
they
you.
may have
you
to.
know?
Right. But it's snowing, and we are here in our studio, but it is a brand new studio. Look around. You'll see lots of changes. Even on the radio, I think you can see the changes there today. Whole new studio built in over the weekend. Very excited about that, and excited just to see you and hear you today. Thank you for being part of the program with our team, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson, through the snow.
Here we are.
Nothing stops us, man. We get
Look at the new camera on Jamie.
dedicated.
Jamie's got his own camera now.
This is weird.
And you got like a fisheye lens on you right there in the control room now. You got your own thing. It's not.
Sip says it makes me look thinner.
You know, here's the thing, right? This is because we added some new cameras.
Yeah,
and they
I know. I don't even know where they all are.
They're all over the place.
Right.
But we added, so they say the camera adds 10 pounds. So we've got like 3 new cameras. So I guess that's 30 pounds.
30 pounds for each of us.
We'll share around,
Yeah.
Ray
the
Raj-
camera does add 10 pounds. You just got to stop eating cameras, and then you'll be fine. Folks, I got to tell you.
He's going to be here all night.
Jeez, you know, let me just think. I don't know what your next job's going to be, but I would not suggest stand-up comedy.
That's fair. Your eye rolls look so much better in the new studio.
Ray Rogers made it through the snow all the way from Virginia. She's here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding, he's the man. Designed the studio, tore it down, built a new one himself, all over the weekend.
The only one.
The only one.
with a little help from
all by himself.
A little help from his friends.
I love doing the demo in here. I love tearing all the crap off the walls and breaking the old desk down.
We got it. Yes,
Great.
indeed. And we want to talk about the Republican debate here at the top of the hour with Ben Terrace from the Washington Post. But there was also a big Democratic debate Thursday, and then out in Milwaukee on PBS, simulcast on CNN. By the way, that was a debate in which Hillary Clinton attacked Bernie Sanders for writing the blurb for my book, Buyer's Remorse. And then Bernie Sanders came out with a new ad on his civil rights record. Don't know who the voice is, but it's a pretty powerful ad. Just a 30-second ad. Here it is.
Change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability. Bernie Sanders. He was there when Dr. King marched on Washington, unafraid to challenge the status quo to end racial profiling, take on police misconduct, and take down a system that profits from mass imprisonment.
There is no president who will fight harder to end institutional racism.
Education, opportunity, reform. Bernie.
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
There it is. Not ceding any ground on the civil rights front. And, of course, a gesture toward the African-American vote in South Carolina. Yes, again, Ben Terrace from the Washington Post at the top of the hour. Sam Baker from National Journal will join us at the half. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. You know, at the end of last hour, we were talking about the president and his golf outings while he's on the West Coast. The Hill reports on where he played Saturday. Saturday, he played at the PGA West in La Quinta, California. It is known as one of the toughest golf courses in the world. 7,000 yards long. It's been the site of the final qualification round for the PGA Tour in the past. So it's a very, very difficult course, but the president felt like he was good enough to take it on. He went out there with some of his high school friends.
He is good enough to take it on. Yeah.
I would hope so.
He's a good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm guessing he is. As much as the guy plays golf. Yeah, you know, he's got to be good at it. This is a terrifying story. If you live in California, the Department of Fish and Wildlife released some kind of crazy numbers about mountain lions over 2015. So in 2015, there were 107 mountain lions that were legally killed last year under provisions of special depredation permits, right? So like for predators, you're allowed to kill these animals. Of the 107, 83 of them had contents in their stomachs that were household pets. They're eating the pets. So out of 107, 83 of them, the mountain lions are killing pets. Now, they checked for deer, which are their natural sort of prey. Only 5% had eaten deer. While, you know, deer are delicious, they're not as easy to catch as a cat or a dog. So it's a real problem in California.
Probably going to see some missing cat, missing dog posters get taken down.
Yeah, exactly.
Answered some questions.
Yeah, that probably answered a lot of questions. Yeah.
I'm for the mountain lion.
You're on Team Mountain Lion?
What about JJ?
What if JJ the cat got eaten?
No mountain lions in Washington, D.C.
You don't know that.
I'll tell you, when I was living in one place I lived in, the Hollywood Hills, my landlady's little yapping little poodle got out. And we never found it. We drove around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And
I bet you were heartbroken.
I'm telling you one thing. I invited that mountain lion to come down that day.
Bill Press was last seen rubbing the little dog with bacon grease.
I was cheering for the mountain lion.
Yeah, rubbing catnip on the dog. And the BAFTAs took place over the weekend, and the big winner was The Revenant in a lot of big categories. Best Film, The Revenant. Best Actor, Leonardo DiCaprio for The Revenant. And Best Director, Alejandro Inarritu, winning for The Revenant. Best Actress, by the way, went to Brie Larson for Room.
Good.
So, yeah, she's great. She was great. Best Supporting Actor was Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies, and Best Supporting Actress Kate Winslet for Steve Jobs.
Gotta see it.
BAFTAs.
All right. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Peter. It was a bloodbath Saturday night down in South Carolina. Republican candidates lining up. They didn't agree on anything except they were all sorry to see Justice Scalia go, and they all agreed that President Obama should not dare make an appointment to replace him because they should leave that up to the next president. Other than that, it was a rock'em sock'em knock'em night between all the candidates at some point, squaring, except for John Kasich, maybe. But Ben Terrace was down there for the Washington Post, still in South Carolina, I believe, and joins us on our newsline this morning. Hello, Ben. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
All right. It was a pretty wild night. I mean, John Dickerson had a hard time keeping any semblance of control, didn't he?
Yeah, but that was fun, wasn't it? It was. That was something to watch.
I loved it. Right. Yeah. So
yeah, I don't think I've had that much fun watching anything.
I couldn't believe that I was yet again sucked into like 2 hours of debate on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
But it was better than any other plans I could have come up with.
Did anybody walk away, intact?
Fully intact? No, absolutely not. But I think if anybody had like a good night, it was probably Jeb Bush, right? I mean, here's a guy who's been called Jebra by SNL, and everyone has been making fun of him for being kind of this milquetoast character. But he actually got some pretty good shots, in on the big bully Donald Trump.
No, I thought he did too. I think that's certainly the best we've seen Jeb, and he's tried right before to kind of direct that line of attack against Trump, but he landed some punches Saturday night for sure, especially when Trump went after his family, right? And
yeah. I mean, first of all, it's hard to make a guy, look like a real jerk if you're going to be attacking his family a lot, because if you come across like a nice family man, then you're going to look like a nice guy. But also, it's real tough to be a Republican frontrunner and attack George W. Bush for causing 9/11. It just seems like a strange line. So you combine that with the fact that he was defending eminent domain and that he had some nice things to say about Planned Parenthood.
Right.
And it's like, how is this guy the guy on top of the Republican field right now?
Let's talk about that Planned Parenthood exchange. That was, in that case, it was Ted Cruz who took him on. Here is that back and forth a little bit.
Right now, today, as a candidate, he supports federal taxpayer funding for Planned Parenthood. I disagree with him on that. That's a matter of principle, and I'll tell you.
You are the single biggest liar. You probably are worse than Jeb Bush. You are the single biggest liar.
The single biggest liar. By the way, the crowd turned on Donald Trump more than once Saturday night, but does it make any difference?
That the crowd turned on him, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially just because it seems to rattle Trump. He has that one line where he says, like, oh, you're the lobbyist.
Yeah, right.
It's just the special interest groups, and then they boo more at him, and it's a funny kind of exchange, and who knows, maybe he's right, maybe he's not, but it seems to get under his skin a little bit. He likes to be the guy who, people are cheering for and going crazy for, these giant rallies and everything. It doesn't do him so well when they're booing him. He doesn't like the optics of that, I don't think.
Right. Ted Cruz also got into it a little bit with Marco Rubio. The two of them, it seems, clearly don't like each other over which one speaks Spanish better.
Yeah, wasn't that amazing?
Yeah, it was. In fact, let's listen to that too, because I just, when Ted Cruz pipes in with his very, very poor Spanish, it's kind of funny. So
Marco went on Univision in Spanish and said he would not rescind President Obama's illegal executive amnesty on his first day in office. I have promised to rescind every single illegal executive action, including that one.
Well, first of all, I don't know how he knows what I said on Univision because he doesn't speak Spanish.
Oh.
And second of all, the other point that I would make...
Marco, si quieres, díselo ahora mismo, díselo ahora. En español, si quieres.
I want to know the candidate that was up there that just started laughing. I can't tell if that was Kasich or who that was, but somebody just started laughing.
It sounds like Christie, but we know Christie was on the
it
stage.
did. It totally sounded like Christie, but someone just started laughing when he threw that haymaker.
So who wins?
The whole thing felt like a roast. It was like comedy hour. And in fact, listening to it now, I'm getting like withdrawal symptoms back in that scene. There was at one point, I swear to God, after the first section, there was a commercial break, and the journalist went to the bathroom, whatever. A couple people came back with popcorn. So it's just like,
literally popcorn.
Yeah. It's like, all right, let's have this next.
All right, let's do it. So I know you've written about this. How is the Republican establishment coming face to face with the reality that, oh my God, Donald Trump could win South Carolina and become the Republican nominee.
Yeah, I think people are really starting to freak out about this. I mean, not even just the candidates whose job it is to kind of freak out about it, and they're the people who they hire and the state party and all that sort of stuff. They have to be worried because their lives can change. But even just the voters that I talked to at Rubio events or Kasich events or Jeb events are just terrified. They're like, this is not a joke anymore. This is the real thing. I talked to a number of people who said they would vote for Hillary Clinton or even Bernie Sanders over Trump. And these are people who are showing up to Republican events, not just, stay-at-home Republicans.
What is, from your observation, does he have a serious ground operation? And is he doing a lot of retail politics in South Carolina? A lot of retail politics. I'm not sure. I mean, probably he'll do some as it gets real close to game time. But he does mostly these fly to places and then do big events. He was in Florida during some of the time that everyone else was in South Carolina doing a big Tampa event. I did go to the Trump headquarters in Greenville, South Carolina, where the debate was. And there were some people that were, volunteering in a back room, but mostly it seemed like a place that people could come in off the street just to pose for a picture with a cutout of Donald Trump, watch Facebook videos that were on repeat. Do you subscribe to the theory that it's make or break in South Carolina for Jeb Bush?
I try not to subscribe to too many theories because
right.
But yeah, I could imagine that if Jeb Bush does, real poorly and Rubio, for example, beats him by a lot, there could be a lot of pressure on him to get out. I think that people usually only leave when they don't have any more money. I mean, it's hard to embarrass somebody out of a race, I think. And if Jeb and a super PAC have enough money to keep him going, I don't know, maybe he would just keep going.
Yeah, it does seem that, he had to do well enough in New Hampshire to make it to South Carolina, but everybody feels that this is the most friendly territory for Jeb Bush with brother George.
I mean, if he's going to have a comeback, it's got to start here.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, he's doesn't necessarily mean that he has to finish in the first place, but I mean, he's got to get some momentum out of South Carolina.
Right.
I don't see where he gets it.
And Ted Cruz, with a big evangelical population there in South Carolina, is also a threat, huh, Ben?
Yeah. I mean, he seems to have a pretty good base there. I mean, if it wasn't for Donald Trump, it seems like it would be a place that he, would be able to grab a lot of those guys. But Trump just seems to steal from everybody. It seems like in some ways.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it really is. But I got to tell you, that was worth staying up for Saturday night. I must say, I'm glad you enjoyed it as much as we did, Ben, and you were down there. All right.
Yeah,
well,
it was fun.
Listen, enjoy the rest of the ride to the Prime. It's this Saturday, right? No,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, this Saturday
for Nevada, right?
For South Carolina.
For both?
The Republicans,
sure, yeah.
And Democrats in Nevada. Right. We'll talk to you again. Ben Terrace from the Washington Post, WashingtonPost.com.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, make it 27. Sam Baker from the National Journal joins us in studio here for the next half hour, talking about the big battle already underway between the president and the Republicans in the Senate over a replacement for Justice Antonin Scalia on the Supreme Court. Just a quick word about last Thursday. Those of you who watched the PBS debate was simulcast on CNN. I was in New York on CNN with Anderson Cooper and the panel when watching the debate when Hillary Clinton blasted Bernie Sanders for, she said, writing the foreword to my book, Buyer's Remorse, How Obama Let Progressives Down. Just to set the record straight, Bernie Sanders did not write the foreword for the book. There is no foreword in the book. He wrote a blurb for the back of the book. So did Congressman Keith Ellison, by the way, and so did former Labor Secretary under Bill Clinton, Robert Reich. And in his blurb, Bernie Sanders doesn't say anything about President Obama. Not at all. Nothing critical about President Obama at all. Just says that the next president, long after taking the oath of office, must keep rallying the people who elected him or her on behalf of progressive causes. That is the only way real change will happen. Maybe the next time before she attacks Bernie Sanders for what he has written, maybe Hillary Clinton should read it first. You can get your own signed copy of Buyer's Remorse at BillPressShow.com. BillPress.com. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Live from our brand new studio in Washington, D.C. On this Monday, February 15, it is the Bill Press Show. Welcome, welcome. Great to see you, and good to welcome to the new studio a good friend of the program, Sam Baker, who covers legal affairs and the Supreme Court for National Journal. And a lot of Supreme Court news to talk about today. Hello, Sam. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Like our new studio?
I do. It looks great.
Huh? It's very. What was
Very nice.
Jamie's word for it? Snazzy? No?
Sleek?
Sleek. That was it.
Yeah.
It's the gray.
Yeah.
Makes it sleek.
It's a different look, really and truly. So if you haven't watched the show in a while, go to youtube.com/TawkrTV or watch it on Free Speech TV because it looks totally different.
And it also looks good on the radio.
That's right.
Because,
That's right.
yes, we are there with you on your local radio station, your local progressive radio station, of course, as well as on Free Speech TV and on your electronic device worldwide. TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. So, Sam, we want to talk about Justice Scalia and who might be nominated and whether or not there's going to be a battle over it. Yeah, we already know that. Scalia, we must start out by saying, was certainly a force of nature on the Supreme Court. He, in an interview on 60 Minutes with Leslie Stahl, delighted in the fact that he stirs things up.
Oh, I love to argue. I've always loved to argue. And I love to point out the weaknesses of the opposing arguments. It may well be that I'm something of a shin kicker. It may well be that I'm something of a contrarian.
He certainly was.
It may.
It may.
Some possibility.
Did you happen to see the play last year, Scalia?
I didn't. No, I wish I had.
Yeah, it was really, really well done. It just captured his personality. He just wanted to argue everything, right? And it's all about his exchanges with one of his young interns. But you've written about, like it or not, he really did have an impact on the court. That 4 of his decisions for which he will be remembered.
That's right, and I think one of the accurate things he said about himself in that clip just then is he really, really delighted in telling other people why they were wrong, more than he enjoyed telling them why he was right.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think people don't fully appreciate about Scalia is he was rarely in the majority. He mostly wrote dissents, which did not help out his fellow conservatives a ton. But just sort of going through, looking back on his career, some of the decisions that defined him, they are mostly really stinging dissents. A couple of recent ones that came to mind, his dissent in the Obamacare case from last term, when he was just really, really brutal to John Roberts. Called the Roberts decision upholding Obamacare subsidies pure applesauce. That was also the one that gave us Jiggery Pokery.
Jiggery Pokery was a real classic.
Yeah.
My favorite, though, was Argle Bargle, which came from his dissent in the DOMA case when the court struck down the Defense of Marriage Act. I think it was called it a disappearing trail of legal argle bargle, which is just, nobody on the court writes like that. Nobody will ever write like that. And it makes the decisions accessible to read someone who's so fiery about them. You can.
There was a feeling that toward the end that he was getting maybe either a little too cranky or.
And a little partisan.
Yeah.
You really saw that come out in immigration. Even obviously, he won't be around when the court takes up Obama's immigration orders, but in some previous immigration-related cases, he made some statements from the bench and on television that seemed more partisan than legal.
Right.
I think there is some truth to that.
And it was not his majority opinion, but. Bush v. Gore is one that he delighted in, and telling people just get over it.
Yeah, literally, that was what he was. People were somebody said get over it. That along.
So what we nominated the president of the United States and suspended the election and overrode the voters' preference, but get over it. Get over it.
Yeah. And in the same vein, he would, when people would ask about abortion or a host of other, what we would all, I think, stipulate are complicated issues, he would always say they were easy. So abortion, easy.
Can't
do it. Just all, civil rights, easy, not in the Constitution.
So I want to tell you my a quick, it's several encounters and interviewed him twice with Justice Scalia. At one time, one day I moderated a program, and he was the luncheon speaker. So I introduced him, and he gave his talk where he famously, as he did often, pounded the podium and shouted, the Constitution is a dead document, mocking school children who would come in and say, the Constitution is a living document. He would go like that. He did that the whole thing, sing-songy, and then he said, pounded the podium, screamed, no, the Constitution is a dead document. And then he was complaining about all these cases. He said stupid cases like that they had to take, that they should never be wasting their time on. So it came question and answer period. And as moderator, I asked the audience. They were scared to death of him. These were business executives. They wouldn't dare ask a question. And as I said, questions for no, not a hand went up. And I said, okay, I'll ask the first question. Justice, you said that you complained about all these cases that you have to take that you should not be taking. I said, why don't you just say no? You have to vote to take them on. So why don't you just vote
not
against?
Do that, yeah.
And he just glared at me. He was so pissed. And he said, obviously, you don't understand. He said, if we didn't take them on, then the states would decide them. Which totally contradicted, it seemed to me, what he stood for.
Yeah, what kind of conservative outcome is that?
Yeah, right. That was sort of that. He just had to challenge me. I challenged him.
Yeah.
It was back and forth.
That's interesting, the intimidation of a guy like that, right? When you're on the highest court in the land, to be able to use intimidation as a tactic to sort of get your side heard, I mean, that's a tough thing to do, to intimidate the other people that are the best judges in the land, right?
All right. So, Jamie, President Obama interrupts his golf weekend out in Sunnylands, California, to recognize the historic contribution that Antonin Scalia had made to the Supreme Court, agree with him or not, and then to make sure everybody knew what the president's intent was.
I plan to fulfill my constitutional responsibilities to nominate a successor in due time. There will be plenty of time for me to do so and for the Senate to fulfill its responsibility to give that person a fair hearing and a timely vote.
And, of course, Mitch McConnell very quickly said, don't waste your time because we won't take it up.
Right. He shouldn't even try.
Right. Okay. Now, remind me, it's a while since I picked up my copy of the Constitution, but it is the president's responsibility to fill a vacancy on the Supreme Court, correct?
Indeed, even at any point during his term.
I was going to say, does the Constitution say, except in his last year in office, except in an election year?
No. As long as he's the president, which,
like
it or not, Obama still is.
Right.
Yeah.
And what do you think Mitch McConnell would be saying if, let's say, Mitt Romney were in the White House at this time?
Right. I think he'd be saying, let's get this done as quickly as possible.
Right. Yeah.
Before the next election.
How could we possibly wait 300 days?
The Senate has a constitutional duty.
Yeah. Right.
To quickly advise and consent.
But as you pointed out earlier, right, when you look at what Justice Scalia said, right, like this guy was
he's an originalist, strict constitutionalist, right?
Right.
A strict constitutionalist would say, doesn't matter when the president appoints, just like Ronald Reagan did in election year, the president appoints and the Senate does its job. They might vote not to confirm, but they do their job.
I don't think you'd even have to be that much of an originalist. I think that's one of the things that Scalia and everybody else, everybody who thinks it's a living constitution could agree on. It's just right there. It's plain as day.
Yeah. So how do you think this is going to play out? Do you think the Senate will have to back? The president's going to nominate someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And soon, I would imagine.
I think so. A couple weeks, maybe.
Yeah. And do you think the Senate will back down? I mean, they need 2/3, is it? I know they need all the Democrats, and I read that. I'll find it. But and a good chunk of Republicans.
Yeah, I think it'd be 60 to break a filibuster, right?
Yes.
So I do think that they will have to back down at some point. That McConnell will have to agree to hold hearings and hold a vote. I'm not exactly sure how that, what will force his hand, but just for some reason, refusing to even take up a Supreme Court nominee. There are so many big cases that haven't been heard yet on the docket for this, immigration, affirmative action, or affirmative action has yet to be decided, but abortion is coming up. Just such a huge docket that I think to not even go through the motions of filling that vacancy is not going to be tough.
What would happen if there were no appointment? So you have an 8-to-8 court, right? I mean, eight person court. So decisions would be 4-4, a lot of them, I guess.
In which case, the court,
happens then?
They have two options. Either the lower court decision stands but doesn't set any precedent. So we just, whatever the lower court said, okay, when you deadlock in a 4-4 tie. Or they can just hold it over and argue it once they get their new justice. Which there's reason to believe, with some of these high-profile cases, especially, Roberts is very concerned about the court as an institution, that he might be inclined, even though conservatives won in the lower court on a lot of these cases, he might be inclined to say, all right, let's just wait until we've got a full 9 and decide them then. Although, then they're much more likely to go liberals' way if Obama actually gets them.
Right. But then basically you have one branch of the government which is non-functional for a year.
Assuming they deadlock.
Over a year.
Yeah, I mean, there might be other cases that they could decide still get a majority within only having 8 justices. But it's going to be a long time. If the Senate doesn't confirm whoever Obama wants, the next president could nominate someone pretty quickly, but even then it takes a couple months to get someone through and actually sit.
I think the New York Times this morning reports that the record is 391 days, and that's when Abe Fortas retired during the end of Lyndon Johnson's term. It was 391 days before Harry Blackmun took the oath of office. This could be longer because
easily,
right from now, 15th of February to the 15th of February 2017. The new president takes office on the 17th of January. So it'd be a while before you get an appointment and then hearings and all of that.
Yep.
Could be longer. Yeah. Bad news.
Yep.
And whom might be considered? We'll get into that with Sam Baker. Your questions, your comments. Do you think the president ought to just wait? Or do you think the Republicans are right in holding him up? 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
On opening body bags after Typhoon Haiyan. I can only imagine it like unearthing a scab. Zipper breaks open one by one. Mothers trying to dig through themselves an umbilical cord to lend life to a limp ghost. There is not enough relief here to hide the scent of what this child used to be. The coconut trees are not high enough to see over the inside out that was made here. Bags do not have the honor of being called burial plots. Churches ain't supposed to be mausoleums. Tacloban was morphed into ground zero. And I watch this while it snows in Madison, Wisconsin, a place where it's easier to live as a rodent than it is to be a colored person. This place drowns my people in a different way. I inhabit both places like Jigsaw Corpse, trying to find itself whole. These brown boys in Tacloban aren't my cousins, but I want to carry them to safety. These brown girls in Tacloban aren't my daughters, but I want to tell them they're still growing after this choking, but I'm still an ocean away, a language farther from root, a skin tone lighter than the sand, born there, raised here, home nowhere. To watch this storm is a sorry excuse for mourning. It is to need the sun desperately. It is to realize that your body is in one country while your grief is in another. To look at your house walk to a river and come back to no house is to be Filipino. To look at your motherland hurting from a TV screen is to be Filipino American. To watch my islands through the blue eyes of Anderson Cooper is the most American I have ever felt. But I still cry for them. And I still pray for them because God tried to make them Atlantis before they were ready to be a myth just yet, because rebuilding is the Filipinos' most intrinsic muscle memory, but most painful trauma, because relief is just a word whose Tagalog translation I don't even know, because this poem is all I can give for my country bleeding in salt water. Hail Mary, full of grace. The Lord keeps trying to drown us. Hallowed be thy bodies. Thy kingdom come down in waves and winds on earth as it is destroyed. Take us this day our daily rations and forgive those who have tried to kill us as we forgive those who have tried to kill us. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us whose skin has always meant sin now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TawkrTV. This is The Bill Press Show.
With Sam Baker here from the National Journal, talking about the big battle. It's going to get underway as soon as President Obama is already underway, kind of in full-fledged, once President Obama gets back to Washington, where he says, I will do what the Constitution requires. I will name someone to fill the vacant seat now left by the death of Justice Antonin Scalia, and Mitch McConnell and all the Republican candidates for president say, "Don't you dare!" It's going to be probably occupy the rest of this year. Sam, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, maybe the rest of his presidency.
Yeah,
this might be the last thing.
Here we go. Let's say a quick hello to Mary weighing in out from Chicago in the great WCPT. Hello, Mary. What do you think?
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for taking the call. I can't help but be struck by how delusional these Republicans are, because the Senate will be vulnerable. They'll be vulnerable in the fall.
Yes.
And the odds are there's going to be a Democrat in the White House in November. So whoever gets elected, whether it's Bernie or Hillary, chances are they would be even more liberal in their leanings in picking the next Supreme Court justices. The Republicans might actually be better served by just going ahead and letting the president choose now.
Yeah, you know what? That's an excellent point. It also underscores, Mary and Sam, I think, the importance of the Supreme Court appointments when you're talking about voting for Senate or for White House or for the White House.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to ratchet up the effort on behalf of Democrats to get back control of the Senate.
I really think that's true. It just, you hear the candidates mention it, right? The Supreme Court is at stake, and that's always true. But you couldn't bring that into sharper relief than, having a vacancy right now during election season.
Right.
And it's always something that seems like it motivates the conservative base more than the liberal base. But this, because it would be Obama or Clinton or Sanders replacing Scalia, this is actually a chance to turn the direction of the court. You have a conservative majority, it can become a liberal majority.
That's right
now.
Yeah, excellent point, Mary. Thanks so much for the call. Yeah, the nominations and the appointments of Sonia Sotomayor, Justice Sotomayor, and Justice Elena Kagan did not change the direction of the court.
Right, there was liberals replacing liberals.
Right.
Now,
this appointment could definitely do so. So who's it going to be?
Great question. I think, there's sort of two factors. One, who would be a good liberal justice who could be there for a while. The leading candidate there, I think, is Sri Srinivasan, who was confirmed pretty recently to the D.C. Circuit. Everyone seems to like him.
Yeah.
He was confirmed, I think, 97-0.
97-0, right.
Which, would be, the Obama administration probably could make a pretty convincing argument that, What changed your mind on this guy now?
Yeah.
Loretta Lynch is also gaining some steam, and I feel like maybe she's gaining steam under the thinking that whoever Obama nominates, the Senate will ultimately reject. Let's just assume we're not going to get a justice, but we are going to get a vote and extract the most pain possible from Republicans. So those seem like sort of two calculations. Do you want to put forward someone who you want to see succeed, but if they're going to get rejected, do you want to put someone you really want on the court through that and sort of tarnish them with a failed vote?
Yeah, and they would be in the position of opposing the nomination of the first African-American woman ever to be nominated to the Supreme Court, or in the case of Sri, the first Indian-American or Asian to be nominated to the Supreme Court. Yeah.
Yep.
Better be careful what they're doing. Sam, so good to see you. Thank you so much for coming in.
You too.
Braving the snowstorm. And I'll be back with a quick parting shot.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
For my 6th birthday, my grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489,856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. But to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explain that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by 0. Shift. My sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift. World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift. Grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit, highway, wedding bell, war, stick shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors. Shift, 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 shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands. Heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, just one final word on this whole Supreme Court flap. Look, here's all you have to consider. What do you think Republicans would be saying if Mitt Romney, let's say, or George Bush were in the White House? Just the opposite of what they're saying today. They would be saying it's the president's job. He has no choice. The Constitution requires it. The country requires it. The third branch of the government requires it. He must nominate someone to the Supreme Court, and then we in the Senate will do our job. And for them to say anything else at this time means they are nothing but pure hypocrites, starting with Mitch McConnell.
This
hey, folks, have a good
is
Monday.
the
Come back
Bill
and see
Press
us tomorrow.
Show.